The future of healthcare lies in human-centered technologies that simplify complex care and restore joy to medical practice. Enter Jamey Edwards, a serial social impact founder reimagining patient experience through artificial intelligence. As President and Chief Strategy Officer of Cairns Health, Jamey is leveraging AI, machine learning, and ambient sensing to transform how we support aging and chronically ill populations. With over 25 years of building groundbreaking healthcare companies, Jamey embodies the entrepreneurial spirit of turning visionary concepts into practical solutions. While together, Jamey shares how Cairns Health is creating an intelligent care companion that connects patients, caregivers, and clinical teams, which is pioneering a more compassionate and efficient approach to healthcare delivery. Join us as we explore how Jamey and his team are simplifying complex care with intelligent technology. Let's go.
Welcome to Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli, where we highlight and speak with the innovators, the game changers, and the pioneers who are deeply passionate and relentless in solving the problems our world is facing today. This is your opportunity to connect with and learn from these leaders and to support them on their mission. Perhaps they will soon be hearing your story as well. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you on this journey with us. Hi, Jamey. Welcome back to the podcast, my friend.
It's so great to be here, Mike.
Well, given your 25 years of experience in building successful companies, as well as a recognized thought leader and speaker on the topics of digital health, health equity, VC investing, and startup life, I'm excited to have you back on the pod today and to discuss your new and very exciting venture. But before we dive in, a bit of housekeeping. While listening to any of our episodes, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you will automatically receive episode updates in your podcast player. Simply search Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And lastly, please visit the bottom of the episode notes to connect with me on LinkedIn and X in order to further the conversations occurring on this podcast. All right, Jamey, it's almost time for our community to learn how you and the Cairns Health team are creating a fundamentally better healthcare experience for people with chronic health conditions and those that care for them, and making healthcare more accessible by simplifying complex care plans, connecting care teams, and meeting patients where they live. But first, what's that one piece of advice that you would give to others who are passionate about reimagining the health of our world?
Yeah, Mike, as a founder and entrepreneur, there's like so many pieces of advice, and boiling it down to one can sometimes be tough. But I would say the thing that has guided me throughout this whole journey has been like the thought of it can be you, right? So in a world full of complexity and challenges, the answer is quite simple. It's like us, it's you, it's me, it's people around us. And any of us can be the one to start a company, lead a movement, be the one to inspire people to reimagine what's possible. And I think too often people like wait for permission, or you're waiting for the perfect moment, or you think next week's going to be the better week to do it. But all the change we want to see starts with people like you and me, and just someone who decided to act, someone who decided to move forward. So instead of thinking,
I love it. One of the best pieces of advice one of my mentors gave me years ago is start before you're ready, just like you said, right? I mean, why not now?
We never have perfect information, right?
100%. And also, too, I knew that we were going to bring some energy on this podcast. We should have started rolling the audio before. I mean, I started standing up at my stand-up desk. You brought the stand-up desk in. We're doing stand-up desk energy on this podcast today. We are both standing up, rocking and rolling. I love it.
Yeah, man. Live the world standing up, man.
Well, let's get back to that, Jamey. You had a storied career. You've been one of our key leaders, whether it be from your startup health days, and I know you're still deeply involved with those folks, an incredible ecosystem, to leading phenomenal companies. We're going to talk about that on the other side of the commercial break. But has that always been that fuel for you? Like, hey, why not me? Why can't I do this? Like, where did that come from? Was it innate in you, or how did you find that spark in your own kind of fiber as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, I think I've always been like a creator or a creative. And I always wondered where I was going to be applying that energy, talking about energy of standing up. And for me, over the years, like when I was younger, it was creative writing. It was displaying it through the arts in some way, shape, or form. And when I got into college and I took a course in writing a business plan, and I kind of saw the idea at that point of how powerful the concept of being a founder, the concept of being an entrepreneur was, taking this idea in your head, making it real, making it matter to people, and having it positively impact them. And ever since then, that has always been the goal. I want to take ideas that I have, and I don't want to be the person in the room who's like, oh, I thought of that 5 years ago. but someone else started the company, right? I've lived through enough of those in my life. And so I really want to be the person who is standing up, being the one to take
well,
that
let's
idea,
talk about that on the other side of
happen.
this podcast, the commercial break. We're going to discuss the incredible things you guys got going at Cairns Health, the why, and kind of what the roadmap looks like, not just today, but for tomorrow, entering an incredible space, a space that absolutely needs an organization just like yours. We're going to pack all of that and more after we get back from thanking our community champion sponsor.
Healthcare faces a paradox that echoes through generations. While the current practices that help heal patients today are vital, it is crucial to evaluate them through an environmental lens. OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative is a collection of interviews featuring influential thought leaders and industry experts like you who share their sustainability strategies, insights, and provide valuable perspectives from diverse industries to inspire innovation within the healthcare sector. OSHA invites you to join this journey. Want to share your sustainability story? OSHA is actively looking for partners to highlight the important and inspiring work being done around the globe. Check out OSHA's Responsible for Tomorrow initiative and series at OSHA.com. That's OSSUR.com. Or visit the episode notes and click on their link. Together, and with OSHA helping lead the way, let's all be responsible for tomorrow.
All right, we are back with Jamey Edwards, President and Chief Strategy Officer at Cairns Health. Jamey, you are one of the very, very select few to be back on the podcast because you have so many great stories to tell. You have been one of our key leaders. You have been instrumental in the inspiration for me to continue to build, for me to continue to push this industry forward, because I know we can because of leaders just like you. So you are back on the podcast, one of the very select few. So with that, Jamey, I know that there has been some updates in your incredible journey. We're going to talk about those updates, talk about all the wonderful work happening at Cairns Health, where you guys are today, where you're heading to tomorrow, and where the community rallied around this podcast should be thinking about the things that you guys are working on and how we can all get involved. But first, Jamey, let's take it back. Take us behind the scenes a little bit. How did this come into focus around Cairns Health, and then leading up to it, the wonderful work that really puts you in a great position to be the President and Chief Strategy Officer at Cairns? How did it all come to be?
Yeah, well, first of all, Mike, it's an honor to be back on the podcast. I can't believe it. You've been doing this for 5 years and just had such a great stretch of amazing conversations. And look, I think building great concepts is all about surrounding yourself with great people, and solving problems is the same way. And so I feel like we've both been a part of this village of folks that you've really helped curate that has really driven the industry forward. So thank you for what you're doing. When it comes to my journey, man, it's been a really interesting few years, right? Built up CloudBreak, ended up merging that into a SPAC, stayed with the public company during my transition period, and then went to Startup Health, where I got to coach and mentor other founders and kind of rejuvenate my spirit post selling the business. And it was a great run at Startup Health. I had been a health transformer at Startup Health. My company was a portfolio company of Startup Health, so I had a lot of respect for the org, and have had got to really let other people stand on my shoulders for a little while, which I thought was incredibly, incredibly gratifying, and a chance to kind of help people avoid the large number of mistakes I made throughout, my own journey. And I think we all take our knowledge for granted. And I realized that while there's something I might think is common sense, that to a brand new founder, that could be just a really good gold nugget that saves them some pain along their own value creation journey and along them living their mission. So post Startup Health, ended up wanting to come off the bench and get my hands dirty again on building a company. And I had a business partner who was an EIR at Coastal Ventures, a guy named Andrew Ritter. And Andrew asked me to come and help lead Cairns, which previously was called Coco Home. We're going through a rebranding right now. And Coco Home was a company that had been around for a few years, incubating cool technology at Coastal. And we were brought in to commercialize the very cool work that we're doing. And so we spent the first months developing a brand new product roadmap for the business and really repositioning it in the market. And it's been a great journey, and it's fun for me to get my artificial intelligence and machine learning chops. This was an opportunity for me to be a part of this new vanguard of technology that's out there and see how we could actually practically apply it in a common sense healthcare type of way, which is, something we're really excited to do. So Cairns really takes intelligent ambient sensing, so radar. We use that to put the patient in context. We have AI algorithms that you can layer over the top of the data coming off the radar to detect heart rate, breathing rate, to detect patient state, where they are in the room, getting in bed, getting out of bed, sleep stages, things of that nature. And then we use that context to determine an intervention that the other side of AI then handles, large language models. And so we're developing this AI, basically support agent and companion, to help people who have really complex care simplify their care into little behavioral nudges that then they can use.
So let's go. There's a lot to unpack there. And thank you for that, Jamey. It really helps set the stage. But want to bring people into the fold a bit that maybe aren't used to the world that you live in, have a wide breadth of folks that tune in on the podcast on the regular. Or what is an EIR? First of all, entrepreneur in residence, but what does that mean? What did that mean for does that mean for your business partner, Andrew, Coastal Ventures? What was the why there in the first place? And then we'll kind of get into the daily of where Karen's is now. But go back to that moment in time. Did Vinod Khosla or Coastal Ventures see an opportunity and they put Andrew to it? Maybe let's unpack that first.
Yeah. So the company was actually originally founded by Vinod Khosla's son, Neil, who's currently working on Cure AI. And their whole goal was to use the technology of radar to detect patient falls in the home. And over time, what they realized was they could only get to a certain level of efficacy using that radar in the home because the radar couldn't see around something like a refrigerator that was insulated or a washing machine. So they're blind spots. They ended up migrating the technology towards a path of using it and applying it for sleep as a sleep solution. So they built out a cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, which actually proved to be very effective. And they really managed that 8-hour journey of like going to bed, sleeping, and waking up and helping people get better sleep. And they would use the radar, determine if you were restless. And then if you were restless, they understood that you were awake, and the large language model would come in and have you do a bed reset. You know, while you were getting ready for bed, it would walk you through the steps to really optimize that wind down prior to going to sleep. And then it would wake you up and help you set your intentions for the day. So when we took over the business, we said, well, why work on an 8-hour journey when you could be working on a 24-hour journey? And also the sleep market is really interesting. It seems like sleep as part of a broader holistic offering tends to have more value than sleep in and of itself. And so we really wanted to broaden the scope of what this technology could do because it was very cutting edge tech. There's companies got like 36 plus patents on this technology. And so really putting that patent portfolio to work meant broadening the scope of what we were doing. And so we came in and we said, what were the two most important trends in healthcare that we saw at that moment? Well, one, a rapidly aging population without enough people to take care of them. And two, this movement to hospital at home and the four walls of the hospital breaking down and providers redefining themselves as care networks to support patients and them meeting patients where they are, you know, something you said in the intro. So we said, if those are the two most important trends, if you're a Venn diagram, how do we put ourselves at the center of those two trends? And we said, well, it's really becoming a care enablement platform for these patients who are 90% of healthcare costs. I think Evernorth or someone did a study and they said that 90% of the care costs are for polychronic patients and seniors. It's staggering. And a lot of it is just really inefficient care where there's unnecessary care being provided because someone let a chronic condition get to the point where it became an acute episode. And so if we could then take these very complex care plans, it's like, Mike, I don't know if you've had surgery on anything, but if you have a surgery on a knee or an appendix or whatever, you're handed a care plan. That care plan could be 40 pages long, full of information. And by the way, it gets handed to your loved one, sometimes not even you. And sometimes, or most of the time, it might end up in the trash or never read. And so if we can take that care plan, very complex care plan, and digitize it and have it remind you when your physical therapy appointment is and when you're supposed to go, and break it down into little bite-sized pieces, remind you when you're supposed to take your medication, and then confirm that you did take that medication. Report if you feel like you're having any pain that the doctor might not have known of because before you're like, oh, I'll just power through it. But if every morning we ask you, hey, Mike, how are you feeling? That leads to a string of discussions. It leads to an assessment. And it leads to our ability to then update those care plans in real time. If there's a situation that arises that requires a doctor then to intervene, the LLM can intervene first. And then,
well, and to your point, you made two big points that are convergent on each other that I believe is going to be a crisis that we're going to have to be all hands on deck for years to come. One, aging population versus two, the lack of workforce, right? And we are not resupplying this industry with enough workers. And, you know, let me get on my soapbox for a moment and talking about AI. You have a lot of folks right now, it's early where folks are saying, well, wait a minute, AI is going to come and take my job. And all of a sudden, I'm no longer going to have a job. And there may be some truth to that. But when you're thinking about a licensed caregiver, somebody that has to practice the art of medicine, there is not enough of that. So how do we take away some of the quote unquote commoditized or the processes or parts of the system that the machines can do so we can help Dr. Jamey Edwards truly practice the art of medicine more than not and get out the administrative burden? Those are the things that we need to be focusing on, because the sheer fact is we don't have enough bodies to empower this industry to take care of the tsunami coming at us. Thoughts?
Right. So a few things on that note. One, we have an industry that's not attractive for people to work in anymore. So if you're coming out of school right now, do you want to become a doctor anymore? Do you want to become, as sad as this might sound, a social media influencer or a coder or whatever it might be? You see alternatives that don't take the same amount of time, dedication, and frankly, purpose, right? So from that standpoint, it's like we need to restore medicine to being a cool place for kids to go and get trained and to serve people. So that's one thing. Two, right now, the environment's really tough, so it doesn't look very attractive. Physician burnout is real. Clinical team burnout is real. Patients have learned to become entitled to their care as opposed to being grateful for their care. And when it comes to physicians, it's like the whole point of the AI, right? Practice at the top of your license. We've heard that phrase a lot. These doctors trained really hard so they could practice at the top of their license. And right now, they spend a lot of time doing BS administrative work, and technology hasn't largely been their friend. And so for a long time, my mission's been to humanize healthcare, did it with my previous company, doing it at the current one. And the whole goal of that is not to be have a patient-centric healthcare system, but to have a human-centric healthcare system. And that means the doctors and the clinical teams and the caregivers.
And vice versa as well, right? Having the patient involved, having the patient, being able to 100%, absolutely. And being able to put those opportunities at play where everybody is involved, patient included. I absolutely love it. Jamey, what does it look like today? You gave kind of a little bit of the backstory of how Cairns came to be. How's it look today out there? How are you and Andrew, the rest of the team? How's it going for you guys right now?
Yeah, look, it's been a great ride so far. And the fact of the matter is we spent the last 10 months really working on what the commercialization strategy and go-to-market motion was going to be for this business. And we've done a few things. One, I come from a design thinking background. And so I didn't want to sit there and develop a product roadmap that wasn't well informed by what customers would actually want, pay for, and that they felt like would move the needle. And so we set out, we have 4 co-development partnerships that we've signed already. We have a $2.5 million grant that we've gotten from the NIH to work with Indiana University Health to build out an Alzheimer's use case on the platform. We've recently submitted a phase 2B study, and I can't mention the name of the institution, but it's someone that everyone would know because we haven't gotten it yet, but we submitted it for REM behavioral sleep disorder on the platform on a broad scale. And we are also recently did a deal with a remote patient monitoring and chronic care management company called MD Revolution. And they're one of the best RPM CCM businesses in the country. So honored to be working with them. And the whole idea there was to help them get better engagement out of their patient population. So one of the issues for these RPM businesses is you send out your kits and then it's hard for people to actually get the kit working or to get signed up, or they just don't do as many readings as they're supposed to so that the RPM company can bill for the service and get the outcome they want from that patient population. And so they realized that if we could be monitoring 24/7 and we can actually engage, when you get up in the morning and be like, hey, it's time to step on that scale, we can actually help that patient engage with their care plan better and drive a better result for the RPM and CCM business. And then finally, and one of the most important ones, and sometimes it's underplayed, but social isolation and loneliness is a major problem. And right now we're working with an independent living facility who is focused on the senior care space. And the whole goal is to make sure that their members stay engaged and that we can help mitigate their loneliness.
That's powerful. You're absolutely right. And there's all the comorbidities that come with loneliness. It's a crisis in and of itself. How exciting. And in regards, let's talk a little future state as well. Obviously, very exciting times right now for you, Jamey. This area is moving quickly. We talk about the proverbial walls coming down, care at home. That is a movement that is happening in real time. We've seen incredible models kind of being deployed to kind of take care and satisfy that market. But you know as well as I do, there's still a lot of runway left. You talked about that for a moment. But more broadly, where do you and your team see things in the next 2 to 3 to 5 years, not just for the organization Cairns, but on the macro? Are we going to continue these trends? What does it look like that we should be mindful of as folks tuning into the podcast today?
Well, Mike, I think it's really interesting. If you take a look at like digital health investment over the last few years, right? Like a huge peak of 2 or 3x during COVID. And then we've dropped back down to pre-COVID levels of investment. And so what does that mean? Well, it means there's a lot of companies out there that have built great product suites that may not be able to grow, may not have access to capital, and actually may be closing their doors. So I think it opens the door for a second wave of startups to go in and attack these issues and have us all be a little bit smarter than we were before after the COVID experience. And I, for one, am particularly excited about these AI and machine learning businesses because I think there's an opportunity to take the drudgery out of healthcare, if you will, and all that low-level administrative work that these AI assistants can be doing, clinical decision support tools that actually help doctors make better decisions, not replacing them, helping them make better decisions, and help improve actually their environment and their lives by feeling like they're supported and backed up at the point of care. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to be the glue that pulls together caregivers, clinical teams, and the patient all together on the same platform. And I don't think anyone's really done that successfully. And I think there's a gap there. And so from our standpoint, the future of medicine isn't necessarily about some crazy new drug coming out. It's about us, or some new technology and hologram or whatever, where you can do like telemedicine and, Star Trek land. To me, it's really about common sense, practical solutions and care models that move the industry forward. So I would love to see an acceleration of the progression towards things like value-based care. I think us being stuck in this fee-for-service model where hospitals are still using fax machines and imaging places are still giving you your MRI on a CD-ROM, like that stuff just needs to change.
And do you see an opportunity, let's go there since you just brought it up, you see an opportunity if we continue to move towards, say, value-based care, because you've lived in it so much in regards to, your time at Startup Health and just being deeply, deeply involved in the kind of the innovation and startup ecosystem. Do you see the opportunity for a kind of another renaissance, another reemergence, another explosion of innovation should those care models start being adopted en masse?
Absolutely. I mean, those care models can drive a tremendous amount of innovation. Like imagine a world where, and I think it was Z-Dog MD who initially talked about this when I was following him, but where you get paid for what you do for a patient as opposed to what you do to a patient. Like that concept has stuck with me ever since kind of he said it back in the day. And I think that if we can move to the environment where it's like, it's about outcomes, it's about patient experience, it's about provider experience, it's about restoring the joy of calling back to healthcare for these providers. It's about why should a hospital feel like a hospital instead of like a place of respite where you can actually rejuvenate and recharge, right? One of the big theories that we have is like no one's bedroom should feel like a hospital room. And quite frankly, no hospital room should feel like a hospital room. It should feel more like a bedroom. So how can we take some of these technologies that are out there? And Mike, have you gone to CES?
Yes, I have been. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gone to Health. I've gone to, Vive, et cetera. But like CES was like mind blowing for me because it's like very future focused and seeing what's being done. And I feel like here in the United States, we're very ethnocentric about our innovation because we think we're the best at everything. But I was really, really impressed with stuff happening in Japan, China, Korea, other parts of the world, and seeing the innovations that were coming out of those geographies. And I came home being like, oh my God, we should be doing this. It was like really rejuvenating to kind of see it and be thinking about the future of where things could go. And what health systems who don't have the restrictions that our health systems have are making way more progress than we are. So it's kind of like, how can we streamline healthcare so that we can actually make the progress we want in terms of quality of care and that care experience?
Absolutely. It is wild. It's so, I guess, refreshing to see those other pockets around the world of the art of the possible, if you will, and not having those constraints or restraints and being able to do things that I'm going to say something I know pretty crazy, what the consumer wants. I know, wild
That's
idea.
Right. And by the way, one of the things that gets talked about in healthcare a lot, Mike, is the fact that we have all this data now and we don't know how to handle it. But imagine if, and we can't make the insights from it so we can make that intervention. So it's like the next wave of these AI technologies is about filtering through all this signal, increasing the signal to noise ratio, and then providing insights at the bedside that don't overwhelm the doctor, but are the ones that they need to see, right? Because there's alarm fatigue, there's alert fatigue, all those things are very real, and you can be overwhelmed by the information to the point where your eyes glaze over. So to me, it's about where AI can be really helpful is in helping digest all that information into an insight so the doctor can then do the proper intervention at the point of care.
Yep. I like to say it. I talk about that as well a lot, and that it's the notion of having that alert at the point of need, not the alert just for the sakes of alerting, because to your point, how do we increase that signal out of the noise? Because we're drowning in all of this information, but how do we actually make sense of it? But the thing is that we're now at a dawn with technology. These things are possible. We just have to shed it's a 2-word phrase. It's one of our worst enemies in healthcare, status quo, right?
Yeah, right.
We need to get out of orthodoxy and status quo, and this is how it's always been. There are plenty of technologies and innovations out there that can help us get there. It's just a lot of the mindset that's holding us back.
Right. And Mike, to that point, when you hear from a client, hey, we think what you're doing is great, but we don't necessarily want the service because if we have the service, that means we need to respond to the alerts or we're afraid of missing something and being sued. Like, well, isn't that the tail wagging the dog, right? Like, that's not what you want people to say. You want people to be like, hey, if it's best for care, we want to do it.
Yep. No, you're spot on. I mean, that's exactly a prime example of the things that we are living in that we don't have to be wedded to. And as long as we continue to have amazing leaders out there like yourself pushing us forward, we are going to get there. There's no doubt in my mind. Let's put the crystal ball back on the shelf for a bit. Jamey, let's talk again back to current state, how we can be helping you and the Cairns team. What's one problem, need, or question that you and the team have that our community can be helping you with?
Yeah, look, we are always looking for co-development partners. I think from our standpoint, there's like literally thousands of use cases we could put on this platform. So we're looking for people to come to us and be like, hey, this is a key point of need, build out a use case for this indication or disease state or whatever it might be. And our deal with our clients is we'll pay for all the development of these custom use cases on the platform and we will pilot it with you. We just want to know that if we pilot it and we hit key metrics, there's a contract in it at the end of the day and that this is a use case that's useful not only for you, but for hospitals and health systems and payers all across the country. So that's the type of stuff we're looking for. We're also going to be going to the market for an investor round. We're going to be raising our seed money. And so introductions to seed stage investors are always welcome.
Well, there's plenty that tune into this podcast, Jamey, and folks that are also always seeking those kind of co-development opportunities and partnerships. How do they get a hold of you and the team online, social media handles, websites, or otherwise? How do they track you down, Jamey? Yeah,
Jamey Edwards on LinkedIn, at Jamey Edwards on Instagram and Twitter. Email is jamey@cairns.ai, CAIRNS.ai. And I'm always willing just to take incoming emails. I call everybody back. I'm very good about maintaining these relationships and realize that we're in a long game here. And the more collaborators we have and smart minds that we have around the hoop, the better off we're going to be.
I can absolutely attest to that comment. He is one of the best at returning messages, staying top of mind. Jamey is an absolute master at that craft. There's no doubt about it. Jamey, thank you for those contact points. Of course, for our community, head on into the episode notes. Simply scroll on down in your favorite podcast player, get a hold of those contact points for Jamey and the team, or you could head over to our free global online community at passionatepioneers.com. There will be a post for Jamey's episode where all of those contact points will be online again over at passionatepioneers.com. Jamey, we're wrapping it up, but we're not going to let you out of here for your second time. But before we let you out of here, we do have a fill in the blank. I'm a passionate pioneer because
I am a passionate pioneer because I want to be the change that I want to see in the world, creating a better future for my family and community and yours as well.
Absolutely love it. Jamey, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming back around. Obviously, the first time wasn't too painful. You're here again, one of the very, very select few to come back. But of course, you are one of those folks that I have admired for so many years and just rooting you on nonstop. Jamey, you are doing incredible work and being that exact change that many of us want to see. Can't thank you enough for our friendship and everything that we get to do together in this industry as we continue to work together to move healthcare forward. But for now, Jamey, thank you for spending time with our community yet again.
Great to be here, and thank you for having these very important discussions, Mike.
Thank you for joining us today on Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. We'd love to hear your feedback about the podcast so we can continue to improve this community and to further support the pioneers being featured. Lastly, please take a moment to subscribe to the podcast and invite your friends and colleagues to join us. This is Passionate Pioneers with Mike Biselli. I look forward to having you back with us during our next episode.